The internal conversation. So when you're working with your colleagues within your business, you may often have to pass information that you've gathered from a customer or from another colleague and pass it to somebody else. So imagine you're in a relay race and that information is the baton. If you don't pass it on and make sure the other person's got it properly, the race is lost because they drop it or you drop it. So keep the information in your hand, make sure you pass it to the other person properly, and I'm using the hand metaphorically. It could be by email, or it could be a memo, or it could be a conversation face to face. Just make sure you don't lose the relay race, because then the information is wasted. External communication is sales out to customers. What you're projecting out from a marketing perspective, or if you're making outbound calls, for instance, because you're prospecting clients, so you found a database, you're prospecting, that would be pure external communication. So I also consider internal communication as important as any sales communication, because every day we're selling to ourselves, we're selling to our partners, we're selling to our business colleagues an idea, a concept, a project. So that internal communication is vital, and particularly in a firm where like a service type firm, so an accountancy firm or a legal firm, where information will need to be transferred from one person to the next to work on a particular case. That internal communication between the two needs to be very clear, very concise, and cover everything that the other person needs to know, particularly if it's in writing, because when it's in writing it can be so easily misunderstood. So if you think of the old phrase, make sure we're all on the same page, or make sure you're also speaking the same language and you're also reading the same book. And again, I would suggest once you've written something, read it back to yourself out loud to make sure it makes sense, or if it's really important, read it to somebody else, see what they hear before you send it. The most important thing is to think in terms of the receiver. So think about how the other person's going to hear it or read it, because what's going on in your head as you say it, or what's going on in your head as you write it, will be completely different when it's interpreted by the other person. So it's fundamental to think about, how's the other person going to receive this? How are they going to read it? What are they going to hear? And that's why it's important to read it out loud to yourself, or maybe read it to somebody else, so that they can get that tone and that sense of what you're really saying. My most memorable communication mishap was thinking I was doing the right thing at a sales meeting. We'd had a product that had let us down, and then it had been re-engineered, ready for sale again, and my job was to convince the sales team that it was now perfect. And I thought, well, they think this thing's a bit of a lemon. So I actually stood up and I held up a lemon in the sales meeting and said, is this a lemon? And of course they all said yes. And I think the sales team got the analogy I was making, but my boss was not happy. I was torn off severely after the meeting for making references to the product as a lemon. So lesson learned.